Hi there guys, got a quick video here for you today on barrel polishing. Now this is the barrel out of the Benjamin Akela, and today we're just going to give it a quick polish to try and improve the accuracy a little and get it shooting where I want it to shoot. So the Benjamin Akela has come quite a long way since we started working on it, fitting the regs obviously giving us the biggest improvement overall, but we have done some work already to the barrel. So this barrel from the factory was quite rough inside and the choke was excessively tight. The choke is probably the last inch or so of the barrel and is just a tighter part of the rifling to crimp the pellet as it comes out the barrel. Some people say that chokes don't make a difference, but I've had barrels with and without chokes that have shot rather well. So I just normally put it down to the barrel. If the barrel's good, it doesn't matter if it has a choke or if it doesn't have a choke. And like I said before, this barrel has had some work done to it before. We've polished the end there, gotten all rid of the rough edges and stuff around the transfer port and where the pellet is fed into the barrel. We've also opened out the lead a little, and we've also made the entire barrel a little smoother inside. What you're doing when you're polishing a barrel is you're basically evening out all the rifling. You're taking all the little grainy parts out, all the high spots, and just making it so the pellet has a nice easy smooth path down the end of the barrel. I polish all my barrels and I've yet to find a barrel that doesn't like a good polish. Some, like the Leshy 2 barrel and the Red Wolf barrel, come out the box absolutely fantastic, but I've found even the match grade barrels can benefit from a quick polish. Right then, the reason we're going to give this one another go over is that we're still getting a few flyers of 50 yards. Typically, when a rifle chronos very consistently, which R1 is, and you still get the flyers, it's down to a barrel issue or a clipping issue. I've checked the shroud on this rifle and it's not clipping, so all I can think is it's the barrel. They can be caused by a number of other things. It could be a feeding issue, so as the pellet's loaded into the breech there, it could be picking up damage, or it could be that the choke is still a little tight. A tight choke will rub off excessive amounts of lead, and over time you'll get a build-up of lead at the choke, and every now and then one pellet will push it out, causing an erratic shot. Right then, this is the tool we're going to use, and it's just a piece of old bootlace with some knots in it. These knots here are a good tight fit within the bore. It's a 177 this rifle, and I've found this bootlace is thin enough to go inside, but stiff enough so it's not going to break when it's in the bore. So what we're going to do is we're going to smudge a little bit of auto sol over these knots, and then pull it backwards and forwards down the bore. What this will do is smooth out any rough spots or lumps in the rifling and hopefully get rid of whatever's causing us the flyers. Here's the barrel and we've got it set up in the vise. I always like to set them up in the vise as this way it doesn't move as you're polishing the barrel. So first what we're going to do is push a pellet through and check for any tight spots or areas that we want to concentrate on when we polish the barrel. Right, so there's the pellet we just pushed through. Looks nice and clean. The rifling's nice and sharp and it's just putting small little witness marks in the end of the pellet there. At this stage, if you push it through and there's any damage on the pellet, then you need to find out what the cause of that damage is. Even a small mark in the skirt of the pellet will cause quite dramatic results at range. But this one seems okay. As we pushed it through there, I noticed the lead felt quite nice. It was a little loose about here, and then it tightened up again at the choke. So for my barrel, what I'm going to do is concentrate on the choke. I'm not really interested in taking any more material out of the barrel. I just want to loosen up that choke a little. When you're pushing a pellet through, all you need to look for is any rough patches or any unnecessarily tight patches. There's not really a specified pressure that you need to push the pellet through at. It just needs to be nice and even. The chokes are normally a little tighter, but they shouldn't be excessively tight. If you've got to really bend your rod to get the pellet out the end, then it's too tight. It should be just a nice snug stop, and a little more pressure pushes it out the end. Right then, so let's push the string through and give the choke a little polish. Just a little tip: when you set up your string, make sure it's long enough so you can push all of it through before you get to the knots. That way it's nice and easy to pull through. And then for the polishing compound, I'm just using some Auto Sol metal polish. Just a dab will do ya. Some, especially rough barrels, sometimes need a little bit of valve lapping compound, only the fine end though, but that's only for exceptionally rough barrels or ones with exceptionally tight chokes. I did use that on this choke here, and that was just to get rid of most of the rough patch. Once that was gone, I switched back to the Auto Sol. So I'm just going to give the choke a little work. Right then, so I don't know how much of that I'm going to show, as it is pretty boring. It's just going backwards and forwards in the places that need it. I will say though that it's better to do a little at a time. So what I normally do with my barrels is give them a quick polish, get rid of the main rough patches, and then shoot them. See what they shoot like and see if they need more polishing. You can go too far when polishing barrels, so it's better just to take a little at a time. That way you can't go too far. So you saw there, I concentrated mainly at the choke, and then once I was happy with where the choke was, I just gave the barrel a couple light going overs just to blend everything together. And now, before we push another pellet through, we need to give it a good clean. Right then, so I'm pretty happy with the barrel. I've put a dozen or so of these pull-throughs through it, and they're coming through nice and clean now. So next thing to do is push the pellet through it, make sure we're still happy. So we take our pellet, push it in the end there, then with our rod push it through. So the lead, still a little bit of resistance on the lead, but it's not tight, not too loose. As we push it through, there's a nice even pressure. About here it starts to get a bit loose. That's been like that since the day we got it though. And then at the end there it just tightens up as we get to the choke. The choke's not overly tight anymore. And there's the pellet. Looks nice and clean. There's no tearing or anything like that. And hopefully that last little bit of polishing should make some difference at 50 yards. This time it was a nice light polishing cycle. We did a few cycles, put a little bit more Auto Sol on, and a few more cycles just to polish it out a little. I don't want to go too mad with this barrel as I've already done a fair bit of work to it, but when we did the initial polishing it did take quite a long time and there was a fair amount of work in it. With Auto Sol you're taking off so little material that it does take a little while to do anything, but at the same time it is easy to lose concentration and concentrate too heavily in one place. So we always do it a little at a time. Right then, so I'll get this back installed in the gun and we'll take it down the range on Saturday and we'll see what it does. Right then, and this is the results from the barrel polishing. And what I've done is I've just put a little black mark over the targets that are under a 5p piece. Then I've totaled the number of targets we did under a 5p piece at the top here. So out of the 14 targets we shot, 11 were under a 5p piece, or 18mm edge to edge, which I'm really quite happy with. That last little bit of polishing seemed to have reduced the number of flyers, and the groups have gotten a lot tighter. And especially on this row here. This row here I really concentrated and tried hard with the rifle, and I also looked at the pellets and made sure there was no damage on the heads or the skirts, and this was the result here. All 4 of these targets are 5-shot groups, and they are well under a 5p piece. This one here, 5 shots, edge to edge, is just over 10mm, it's 10.25mm, and that's really getting into Red Wolf territory. So it just goes to show you a little bit of polishing can really help out. In total we did 32 5-shot groups. I know there's more than 32 circles here, but some I didn't do 5-shot groups, and others I used for zeroing, so I've left them out. But in total 32 targets, and of that 32, 24 were under a 5p piece. So it just goes to show you, even budget rifles, when you put a little bit of work into them, they can turn out really well. And if we compare these results to the results a few weeks ago, these were the best ones we got a few weeks ago, and these ones, only 5 out of 10 of the targets were under a 5p piece. And then if we compare it to the very first week we had the rifle, we can see an even greater improvement. These groups here were the first ones we ever done with the rifle, and then this is our latest group sheet. This one here was the only one that actually grouped at 50 yards, and as I said at the time, that was a total and utter fluke. The rest of the time the groupings were loose at best and nowhere near consistent. Okay then guys, so I'll just leave you with some final thoughts about barrel polishing. Now this is the one out of the Leshy 2, because the Akela one is back in the rifle, but I just thought I'd give you some points to look out for. Number 1, don't do too much at one time. It's much better to do it very gradually, just work in the areas that need a little bit of work, and evening out the whole barrel. You don't want to be coming in and doing all of it in one go, as you can go too far that way. If you just do it a little at a time and test it in between polishings, it's much better. Another thing to look out for is the crown. There's a very simple test you can do for a crown, and that is to put a cotton bud in the end and then pull it out. If there's little pieces of cotton left in the crown, then the crown needs a little bit of cleaning up. There's a little burr there that's catching the end of a cotton bud. It should come out nice and easily without leaving any furry bits in the end of the barrel. The crown's one of the most important parts, and having a burr on there can be extremely detrimental to your accuracy. The second place to watch out for is the transfer port and the lead. Now this is a Leshy 2 barrel, so it doesn't have a traditional transfer port, but sometimes when they drill the transfer port out they leave a burr on the inside. Obviously as a pellet's pushed through there, it hits the burr and can cause some damage to the pellet. We have found in the past rifles that are totally inaccurate, utterly useless, down to just a little burr on the inside of the transfer port. What it does is damage the pellet on the way in, and obviously any damage on the skirt is going to affect the trajectory of the pellet and cause it to hit a different place each and every time. So having a nice clean transfer port and a nice clean crown is essential in your barrel. Other than that, just make sure the insides are smooth and you're aiming for an even pressure. Obviously if you've got a loose spot, you don't want to polish the whole barrel to suit that loose spot, and you can't add material, so it's always best to do a little at a time. Other than that guys, it's not rocket science, and if you take it slowly you won't have any problems. Right then guys, that's going to be about it from me. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.